The lemon slice was still floating in her water glass. That's the first thing I noticed. Not her keys on the floor. Not the overturned stool. Not even the faint outline of her body where she must have collapsed on the rug. Just that stupid lemon slice. Perfectly yellow. Perfectly round. Still bobbing in the glass like nothing happened. It was 5:42 p.m. when she came back. Spa day. Girl's thing. Steam rooms and sugar scrubs. Cucumber slices over the eyes. All that wholesome crap. She came through the door radiant. Literally glowing. Like the kind of glow you only get when you've been somewhere warm and soft and expensive. I was standing in the kitchen, drying my hands. There was a candle lit. I don't even remember lighting it. She walked in humming. I remember that. Humming some Fleetwood Mac song she always puts on when she's in a good mood. She said, "Smells amazing in here. Are we celebrating something?" I didn't answer. I just gestured at the table. She tilted her head, confused, and walked over. Then she stopped. Dead. And dropped. No scream. No gasp. Just thud. Face first onto the rug. The glass in her hand hit the ground second. Exploded like a firework. Water soaked the corner of the table. The lemon stayed in the upright glass, untouched. I stepped over her, not even rushing. I wasn't scared, because I knew why she fainted. It wasn't the heat. It wasn't low blood sugar. It was the thing sitting on the center of the table, between the candles and the linen napkins I never put out unless her parents are visiting. It was small, silver, rectangular, and hers. Or more specifically, the one she thought I'd never find. The flash drive. I didn't even have to open it. I already knew what was on it. But I did open it. And it was worse than I thought. I didn't even know we still owned that flash drive. It was one of those ancient silver ones, a little dented on the side from when she dropped it on the patio years ago. She told me it had some old tax files on it, maybe wedding photos. Nothing interesting. Said it didn't even work anymore. That was back in 2021. But clearly, it worked just fine. Because when I plugged it into my laptop earlier that afternoon, after finding it shoved behind the toaster oven wrapped in a dog treat bag, no, seriously, it lit up immediately. And what I found wasn't tax records. It wasn't wedding photos either. It was something worse than any affair. There were 3 folders. The first was labeled SBA in all caps. That already felt like a punch in the gut. She's been going every Sunday for the last 5 months. I remember asking her once, jokingly, "Do they give you gold facials there or something?" And she just smiled and said, "It's my escape." Cute. Inside the SBA folder were 47 videos. Not security footage. Not Zoom calls. Videos filmed by her. All time-stamped. All private. Most were just 10 to 15 seconds long. Some were nearly an hour. The thumbnails told me enough. Her face. Her voice. But not in spa robes. Not in massage chairs. She was in hotels. Apartments. Once, and this broke me, in what looked like someone's art studio. In one video, she's laughing while pouring wine into 2 glasses. Off camera, a voice says, "You still think he has no idea?" And she laughs harder. Halston doesn't see what's in front of his face unless I spell it out in mustard. That was her joke, I guess. I hate mustard. I didn't watch all of them. I couldn't. I got through 4. Just 4. And it felt like my skin was being peeled off inch by inch with each one. Her expressions. The intimacy. The casual cruelty when she mentioned me. Like I was this annoying character in a sitcom that no one takes seriously. The second folder was called Music, but it wasn't music. It was voice memos. Recordings. Some were hers. Most were his. Same guy in all of them, I think. Deep voice. Calm. Cold. He called her my compass in one. Called me the obstacle. I guess I should be flattered that I was even part of their conversations. But then came the third folder. The one that makes me think none of this was just about cheating. It was called After. Empty. Just an empty folder. That chilled me more than the others combined. Because who the hell names a folder After, unless they're planning something? That's when I heard her car pull in. That's when I lit the candle. Placed the flash drive on the table. No confrontation. No yelling. I didn't even want revenge. I just wanted to see her face. And I did. She walked in. Saw the setup. And her eyes locked on the flash drive like it was a live grenade with the pin already pulled. And then she fell. She's upstairs now, pretending to sleep. Says she's lightheaded from the steam room. Right. I haven't told her what I know yet. I want to see how long she lies. But here's the part that really messes me up, Reddit. There's one thing on that drive that I didn't put there. A text file. Last modified yesterday. named simply, If He Finds Out. I haven't opened it. Not yet. I'm still deciding if I want to know how deep this rabbit hole goes. I wish I could tell you I stayed strong, that I held out, that I had some kind of plan, or resolve, or even self-respect. But the truth is, the second the house went quiet and I knew she was asleep, or at least pretending to be, I cracked. I opened the file. The one called If He Finds Out. I don't know what I was expecting. A confession? A goodbye? Instructions? I think part of me hoped it was a joke. But there's nothing funny about what I read. The text was short, just 13 lines. But those 13 lines have done more damage to my mind than anything else so far. The first line? It was my full name. First, middle, last. Typed in bold. That immediately made my stomach flip. Who titles a file, If He Finds Out, starts it with my full name, and then just keeps going like it's a shopping list. The next few lines read like directives. Not diary entries. Not thoughts. Instructions. If Halston opens this, you have 1 hour to initiate Plan Echo. He will not react violently. He will isolate emotionally. He will try to make sense before acting. Use this time window. Lock down Phase B assets. Do not return to the condo. Leave the burner in the fireplace, not the trash. Take Leo to the cabin early if needed. No contact until the signal is sent. Leo. That was the first time she ever used our dog's name in anything suspicious. That hurt more than I care to admit. I don't have siblings. My parents are both gone. That dog is all I've got outside of her. And now he's part of some twisted Plan Echo I was never supposed to know about? And what the hell is Phase B? Condo? What condo? We don't own another property. At least, I thought we didn't. And the part about me, he will isolate emotionally. That shattered something in me. Because it's true. That's exactly what I do. I shut down. I go quiet. I pretend to be okay until I've rehearsed every possible version of what could have been said, what should have happened, what I'll never be able to forget. She knew me better than I knew myself. Enough to predict me like I was part of a script she wrote. I reread that file 5 times. I even printed it. Not to confront her with it, just to hold it. To feel it like proof. Because suddenly, I don't know what's real anymore. My home doesn't feel like my home. My wife doesn't feel like my wife. The walls are whispering at me now. Or maybe that's just the paranoia setting in. I checked the living room camera, the one she forgot I installed last year after our window got smashed during that hailstorm. She's not asleep. Not even close. She's sitting in the dark on the couch, scrolling through her phone, but not texting. Just looking. Scrolling. Back and forth. Back and forth. Like she's waiting for something. A message? A call? A signal? And then she did something that made my skin crawl. She looked directly into the corner of the room where the camera is. She stared at it for 6, 7, 8 seconds. Didn't blink. Didn't smile. Just stared. And then she turned it off. She's never done that before. So now I'm sitting in the garage, writing this on an old Chromebook I haven't used in years, the one I used to write dumb poetry on back when I thought being deep would save our marriage. I'm not deep. I'm drowning. I don't know what Plan Echo is. I don't know who else is involved. I don't even know if this is cheating anymore. This feels bigger, more calculated, and yet somehow more personal than anything I've ever experienced. She's moving pieces I didn't know were on the board, and I think I'm being replaced. The next morning, she was back to smiles and chamomile. She moved through the kitchen like nothing happened, like she hadn't passed out in front of me or stared down the security camera like she was signaling a silent alarm. She wore my t-shirt, made me eggs, even kissed my cheek like a wife who didn't have a folder named after and a plan titled Echo. And I played along. That's what scared people do. They act. I chewed the eggs even though my throat was a clenched fist, nodded when she told me she might swing by the spa later to pick up some products, and smiled when she said she'd be out for most of the afternoon. My heart was a drum solo, but my face was porcelain. The second her car disappeared down the street, I grabbed the keys to my old truck and followed. I stayed 4 cars behind. No music, no AC, just the sound of the tires rolling over broken pavement and my own breathing, which got louder every time she made a turn I didn't expect. And then, she didn't go to the spa. Of course she didn't. She drove west, through the old side of town, past the train yard and into the hills. I hadn't been out there in years. Not since we first started dating. We used to hike those trails and pretend we were escaping the city, escaping our lives, like fugitives with nothing but granola bars and each other. She turned onto a gravel road I didn't recognize. No street sign. No mailbox. Just dust and pine needles. I waited 2 minutes, then crept after her, hoping the sound of my engine wouldn't carry. The road twisted and dipped, winding through the trees like it was ashamed of itself. And then, there it was. A cabin. Except, it wasn't a rustic getaway. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even charming. It was sterile, almost medical. The kind of place that looks abandoned, until you notice the satellite dish, the tire tracks, the ultramodern door lock with no keyhole. There were no windows on the first floor. No decorations. Just dark wooden walls and that awful silence that feels intentional. She went inside. Stayed for 37 minutes. I know because I timed it. I didn't get out of the car. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just watched and recorded the whole thing through the cracked passenger window like a man clinging to the edge of his own mind. When she came out, she wasn't alone. He walked behind her. Tall. Tan jacket. Bald. A deep scar across the side of his neck like someone tried to erase him but didn't finish the job. He didn't touch her. Didn't smile. Didn't say a word. Just handed her something. A black case, rectangular, like the kind of case you'd keep documents in. Or something more permanent. She put it in her trunk, kissed his cheek, and drove off. I stayed, waited 20 minutes, then drove up to the cabin, heart punching my ribs like it was trying to escape. There was no doorbell, just that smooth black panel. I touched it. Nothing. I knocked. No response. I walked around the side and found a sticker under a loose piece of siding. A barcode. I scanned it with my phone. It brought me to a site that didn't load. Just a black screen with a single phrase in red. This isn't for you. I got in my truck and drove. Back home. She was already on the couch watching a sitcom she didn't even like. Her hair was wet. She said, "Took the long way back. You ever notice how peaceful it is out west?" I nodded. She said, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah." Because I'm not stupid. But I did check the trunk after she went to bed. The black case wasn't there. And now, the camera in our hallway doesn't just show her walking. It shows her stopping every time she passes it. Looking into the lens. Smiling. And whispering something. No audio. No way to read her lips. Just the movement. Again and again. Like she's rehearsing something. And I think it's for me. The first thing I noticed after I got the door open, and I'll explain how in a second, was the absence of time. No ticking. No hum. No LED glows or appliance whirs. The place felt vacuum-sealed from reality, like it wasn't meant to exist in the same hour as everything else. You ever walk into a hospital room where someone just died? That thick, padded silence. It was like that, but heavier, deader, and stranger. Because the walls weren't just undecorated, they were deliberately blank, like someone had erased every trace of human presence except the floor beneath my boots. Let me rewind. I went back to the cabin the next day. I waited until she left for her floating therapy session, which I now assume is code for whatever covert assignment she's part of, and drove straight out there before I could talk myself down. This time I brought bolt cutters, gloves, and a little keycard scanner I bought online after I saw the door lock the first time. It took me nearly 15 minutes of quiet panic before I realized the side door, the one behind the utility box, had no actual security. Just a broken frame cleverly hidden behind fake siding. It wasn't locked. It just looked locked. Like they expected nobody to be that thorough. But I was. I am. Because the more she smiles at me like nothing's wrong, the more obsessed I get with pulling the thread that unravels all of this. Inside, the air was cold. Not in a natural way. In a way that felt curated, like someone programmed the temperature for preservation. It smelled faintly like paint thinner, citrus, and dry earth. The interior was divided into 3 rooms. A narrow hallway, a main chamber, and something like a back office behind a frosted glass door that had no knob. I started in the hallway. There were no photos, no coats, no furniture, just a row of hooks on the wall, 8 of them, each perfectly spaced, each labeled with a number in tiny silver font, 01 through 08. Only one hook had something hanging from it, a gray duffel bag with a lock I couldn't open. The rest were empty, waiting. In the main room, I found the first signs that this wasn't just an affair. There was a workstation, not a desk, but something closer to a station. Dual monitors, both off. A strange control panel with a dial that didn't have labels, and a drawer filled with blank white cards the size of passports. In the far corner, a black cot. No pillow, no blanket, just a cot, and a bucket underneath it with something that looked like charcoal dust. I didn't touch it. Couldn't. My hands were already shaking. My chest was tight. My instincts were yelling that none of this had anything to do with love or sex or betrayal. This was colder, sharper, purpose-built. And whatever the purpose was, I wasn't supposed to understand it. But I kept going. The glass door, the one I mentioned. I don't know why I did it, but I pressed my palm flat against it. Immediately, I heard a click. The door unlocked. Slowly, silently, like it had been waiting for me. Inside was a single object. A chair. Not just any chair. One of those medical-grade ones you see in testing labs or psych wards in movies. Steel frame. Leather straps. Adjustable headrest. A tray table next to it with a notebook, handwritten. Her handwriting. I opened it. It wasn't a journal. It was a log. Dates. Names. Codes. Observations. My name was in there. More than once. Labeled Subject H. The entries weren't emotional. They weren't angry. They read like notes. Like I was part of a study. Subject H reacts predictably to minor emotional withdrawal. Subject H continues to assume fidelity despite overwhelming indicators. Delay in confrontation observed. Will escalate gentle triggers. And then one that made my throat close. Subject H discovered flash drive earlier than projected. Phase B required. Potential acceleration approved. Approved? By who? And what is Phase B? I stumbled out. Literally stumbled. I hit my shoulder on the hallway wall on the way out because my vision had started to tunnel. My ears were ringing. I nearly threw up in the pine needles outside. I drove home in silence. No music. No thoughts. Just 1,000-pound pressure in my chest and the slow, soul-killing realization that I may not be married to a person anymore, but to a procedure. An operation. A framework with eyes, lips, and a heartbeat. She was in the backyard when I got home, watering the plants, humming. She looked up and smiled like I'd just returned from a grocery run. I said, I had to get out for a bit. She said, that's good. You need more fresh air. And then she handed me a glass of water with a lemon slice. Same size, same color, floating just the way it had that night she fainted. I didn't drink it. I haven't slept in 2 days. I stopped trusting my own thoughts 3 days ago. It began with small things. Misplaced keys, a cabinet left open that I swear I closed, the dog reacting to sounds I didn't hear. But what really pushed me over was the calendar. The one hanging in the hallway near the laundry room. We don't use it. Haven't in years. It's just there for decoration now. But that morning, I walked past it and noticed something strange. 3 of the dates from last month were circled in red marker. Not neatly. Sloppily. Like someone did it fast. 2 were Sundays. 1 was a Tuesday. I didn't circle them. I know that for a fact. And when I asked Camber if she did, she smiled like I was asking whether birds have knees. I don't even know where the red marker is, she said. But she was holding it. In her hand. When she said it. So I started writing things down. Not in my phone. I don't trust it anymore. Not after that strange voicemail I found that auto-deleted before I could replay it. A male voice. Just static and my name repeated once in a way that didn't sound like a person. So now, I use a cheap spiral notebook I keep in the truck under the seat. I log everything. What I eat. What I say to her. When she leaves. When she stares too long. What she touches. When she coughs. I even write down my dreams. Especially those. Because lately, they've started repeating. The last 3 nights, I've had the same exact dream. I'm standing in the cabin. Only it's not empty this time. All the hooks on the wall have bags hanging from them now. Identical gray duffels. I go to the one marked 06, mine, and unzip it. Inside is a tape recorder. One of those old handheld kinds with the plastic buttons. I press play, and it's her voice, but distorted, like it's being broadcast through water. She says one sentence. Subject H failed the empathy deviation threshold. Then I wake up, covered in sweat. Every time. This morning, I opened the fridge and found something that made me freeze. Not because it was scary, but because of how normal it was. A labeled container of chicken noodle soup. Camber's handwriting. My name on it. For Halston, when you feel off, Yellowheart. And for a second, I almost cried. It was so human. So her. I almost convinced myself I imagined everything. That I'd had some kind of breakdown. That the cabin was just some weird rental. That the notes were old writing samples. That the man with the scar was a property inspector. I told myself maybe she was just having an affair, and my brain made it bigger, stranger, that I wanted there to be a conspiracy because betrayal was easier to swallow if it was shared with something bigger, something mechanical and controlled and sterile. But then I opened the soup and found a slip of paper inside, folded small, tucked under the layer of noodles, like a fortune cookie that didn't want to be found. I unfolded it with trembling hands. One sentence, typed, not handwritten. Please stop looking. No punctuation. No signature. She was out when I found it. I sat at the table for 30 minutes, just holding the note, waiting to hear the sound of the door unlocking. When she came home, I acted normal. I asked about her day. She told me the spa changed ownership and the new esthetician was soulless. I nearly laughed. I don't think she realized the irony. Then she said, "You look tired. Maybe you should go lie down." I asked her if she wanted to watch something together. She paused. "Not tonight. I have to pack." I asked, "Pack?" She smiled. "Didn't I tell you? I'm going to my sister's for the weekend." Her sister lives in Nevada. But the weather app on her phone, the one she left open on the kitchen counter, showed a 5-day forecast for Vancouver. She left 5 hours ago. And not even 2 hours after that, I got a text from an unknown number. No contact name. Just a location pin. It's the cabin. Again. But this time, the pin is labeled 06, finalized. She thinks I won't go. She's wrong. The drive to the cabin felt different this time. I didn't blast music to stay awake. I didn't try to regulate my breathing or rehearse questions or plan how I'd react. There was no fear left, just this cold, humming certainty in my bones. Like walking into the ocean after deciding you're not going to swim back. It wasn't bravery. It was something else. I drove with the windows down, letting the air cut at my skin, half hoping it would snap me out of whatever madness I've been sinking into, but it didn't. The air out there felt too still, too measured, like the trees were holding their breath with me. When I pulled into the gravel path, I noticed something immediately. New tire tracks, wider than Camber's car. A van maybe. And footprints, heavier than hers, longer strides. Someone else had been here. Not hours ago. Minutes. The gravel was still settling. I left the truck running, engine idling low, and crept forward on foot. I had a tire iron in my jacket sleeve, my flashlight in the other hand. I didn't knock. I didn't call out. I just walked straight through the side entrance again. The broken frame was still loose, and stepped into the dim interior, heart beating steady and silent like it had accepted its fate. But the cabin wasn't empty. It had changed. The hallway hooks were all full now. 8 gray duffels. Every one. All identical. All zipped and tagged. Hook 06, mine, had a red strip of cloth hanging from it. A marker. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. It felt like touching it would make something real. Something irreversible. The main chamber had been cleaned. Immaculate. All the dust I remembered was gone. The cot was replaced with a steel bench. The monitors were on now, but the screens were white. Just pure, searing white. And the desk had papers on it. Fanned out. My file. I knew it was mine because the top page had my name, birthday, blood type, and something that made my spine contract. Emotional decay rate, accelerated. Restructure initiated. And under that, in the supervisor notes column, compliance consistent with prior model. Extraction window closing. I had no idea what that meant. None of it. But the phrasing, prior model, extraction, compliance, it didn't sound like language from a marriage or even an affair. It sounded like a clinical report from a program, an experiment, or something worse. Then I heard it. Not a noise. A presence. Movement behind the glass door. I turned slowly. The room, the one that had the chair last time, it was dark. But I could see a figure through the glass. Not Camber. This person was broader, hunched, breathing heavily. I couldn't see the face, just the outline. Whoever it was, they were sitting where the chair used to be. And they weren't moving. I don't know what possessed me, but I opened the door. Inside, the air was thick and metallic, like iron and ozone. And the person in the chair, he looked up. He looked just like me. Not kind of like me. Not vaguely. Not the way people resemble strangers on the street. Exactly like me. Same scar on the right hand from the beer bottle in college. Same mole under the eye. Same expression, confused, broken, exhausted. But he didn't speak. He just stared at me like I was the ghost. And then I noticed the 4 in his arm, hooked into a machine. Quiet. Still running. and written in black marker on his forearm, smeared but legible. 06 equals terminated. You're not supposed to see this. I stumbled back, tripped into the hallway. I couldn't breathe. My lungs wouldn't expand. I thought I was dying. My knees hit the floor. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely drag myself to the side of the wall. That's when I saw the new writing on the wall above the hooks. It hadn't been there before. Observe. Replace. Discard. Repeat. My name was written under it in chalk. I didn't run. I crawled out of that place. Back into my truck. Back down the gravel road. All the way home. I parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest of the way in the dark because I didn't want her, or whoever she really is, to hear the engine. When I got inside, the house was silent. No TV, no music, no lights, but there was a plate of food on the table, and a note. Folded once, typed again. You're not him anymore. She came back. She knows. But here's the worst part. I looked in the mirror after I washed my face, and for a split second, I wasn't sure if I was either. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man in the chair. The one who looked like me. The one with the 4 and the warning inked into his skin like a countdown. My own doppelganger in stasis. I could still feel his stare burning behind my eyelids. Not angry, not pleading, just tired. Like he was waiting for me to realize something I hadn't yet earned. By dawn, I made a choice. Not a plan. Not a confrontation. Not some Hollywood-style trap to catch her in the act. No, I chose something simpler. Quieter. Something that maybe, just maybe, would set me free. I made coffee. The good kind, the beans I'd been saving. I took the red marker from the hallway and circled today's date on the calendar. Not for her. Not to confuse her. For me. To remind myself that this is the day I stop letting ghosts run my life. Whether they live in cabins, text messages, or my own reflection. When she came downstairs, Camber, or whoever she truly was beneath that face, she looked surprised to see me smiling. I don't think she knew what to do with kindness anymore. I thought you might still be asleep, she said. I nodded. I thought I might too. We ate in silence. She didn't ask questions. I didn't offer any. But I could tell. She was reading me like a scientist watching a lab rat try a new path through the maze. She was waiting to see if I'd crack, run, lash out. Instead, I stood up, kissed her on the forehead, and said 6 words I never expected to say without trembling. I'm going away for a while. She froze. Not from shock. From calculation. I could almost hear the gears turning. But she didn't stop me. Where will you go? She asked. I shrugged. Somewhere I haven't been scripted to. And with that, I packed a small bag. Left the notebook behind. Left the flash drive. Left the paranoia, the camera feeds, the broken loops of doubt and rage. I took only what mattered, my ID, some clothes, and a photo of us from years ago. Before the weirdness. Before the manipulation. Back when love was messy and real and human. I drove north. No destination. No maps. I slept in my truck the first night. Then I found a cabin of my own. A real one. Not one wired with secrets and experiments. It smelled like dust and pine. There were birds outside. Real ones. And that's where I started writing this. Not for Reddit. Not for revenge. For clarity. Because here's the truth that scared me most. More than the folder names, or the doppelganger, or the cold mechanical language in her logs. The real horror wasn't that she might have been some operative, or part of a program, or involved in something dark and clinical. The real horror was that I let myself forget who I was without her. That I allowed my entire identity to be molded around her attention, her validation, her pattern of distance and reward. Whether it was intentional or not, whether it was malicious or just trauma passed down, I became a version of myself that only existed in response to her. Not on my own terms. But not anymore. Now, I wake up early. I go outside. I breathe. I let the silence be silence, not suspicion. I don't need answers. I don't need closure. I just need to live unobserved for a while. No log files. No phases. No replacements. Just me. And the best part? The longer I stay out here, the more I feel like I've remembered something I'd forgotten existed. Peace. It doesn't always come with a resolution. Sometimes it starts with just walking away, before the story finishes you first.